Designed by John Moses Browning himself, the 50 BMG machine gun is the longest-serving U.S. military small arm of all time, and for good reason.
The neat thing about the M2 Browning that John Browning designed, that's just considered the belle of the ball when you really need to get a job done, is that it had its origins in the trenches of World War I. The Allies were finding that German planes and vehicles were being up-armored, as we would call them today, by the Germans, and the machine gun ammunition that we had wasn't getting the job done as far as penetration.
The American Expeditionary Force recognized that there would be great use in a firearm capable of delivering a volume of fire, firing a projectile a half-inch in diameter, and capable of accelerating that projectile to over 2,700 feet per second. And John Browning, the greatest firearms designer of all times, upscaled aspects of the basic design of his 1917 water-cooled machine gun to create this new 50 caliber machine gun. The resulting prototype provided everything needed. It provided the larger, heavier bullet, and this new cartridge that we now call 50 BMG for Browning machine gun, also designated 12.7 by 99 millimeter NATO. This cartridge was more than capable of meeting the needs of the First World War, and at the time, I'm sure that there wasn't any belief that this cartridge would continue to meet the needs of ground combat and air combat into the 21st century. A century later, the weapon still serving.
The M250 caliber machine gun, heavy barrel machine gun, is amazing in that it really goes back to World War I, and it's still a mainstay not only in U.S. forces today, but in forces around the world. There's very, very few firearms that can claim that distinction.
It's adopted and goes into U.S. military service in 1933. And it sees its first combat during the Second World War. And during the Second World War, the 50 caliber machine gun is fighting really in three versions. First, there's the 50 caliber water-cooled machine gun, which could be mounted on a traversing and elevating tripod, capable of delivering a higher volume of fire against aircraft in flight, and the weapon being cooled during operation by the presence of the water jacket. This allowed for a higher cyclic rate of fire, which therefore provided a greater volume of fire toward a target in the sky. All of the various accoutrements that go with the weapon make it a little bit unwieldy, making it not the best choice to move forward with an advancing echelon. And so the result then is that another version is developed, the ground mount version. The ground mount version we designate today, even now, as M2HB. The HB standing for heavy barrel. This is used specifically to identify the ground mount version, the ground combat version of the 50 caliber machine gun, as being different than its brother, who also experienced prolific use during the Second World War. The AN-M2 50 caliber machine gun. AN standing for Army Navy, standardized across both the Army and Navy branches of service. The AN-M2 50 caliber machine gun did not make use of a heavy barrel and is best known for being used in aircraft during the war. So the AN-M2 50 caliber machine gun saw widespread use in all theaters, just like the ground mount did, but it's a different firearm, mainly because it's lighter. It makes use of a full-length barrel jacket and a lighter weight barrel, not the heavy barrel that you see on the M2HB. But then also significantly because the AN-M2 50 caliber machine gun has a significantly higher cyclic rate of fire than the M2HB 50 caliber machine gun. The AN-M2 delivers rounds at a cyclic rate of fire of approaching 850 rounds per minute. This stands in strong contrast to the M2HB, the heavy barrel version of the 50 cal, which delivers a cyclic rate of fire of about 450 rounds per minute.
The M2 Browning continued to serve the U.S. military, served well during the Korean conflict, and in Vietnam. You have guys like Carlos Hathcock using an M2 Browning to pick off our nation's enemy at like a mile during the Vietnam conflict. You have it mounted on early armored personnel carriers. And as much as the platforms changed, because when you think you have a white half-track in 1942 mounting a 50 caliber Browning, and today you have strikers mounting a 50 caliber Browning used by American troops all over the world. The gun itself, you can speed it up, you can slow it down. It's currently manufactured for the U.S. military. It's currently manufactured commercially by FN in Belgium. And they found a way to really up the cyclic rate, and even put it into a pod. And it's a tremendously effective firearm. Of course, the civilian ownership of a Ma Deuce is restricted due to BATF regulations, but a lot of soldiers, sailors, and Marines have used the Ma Deuce. That's all the time that we have for this week. If you like this show and you're not an NRA member, you need to join right now. For more information, go to AmericanRifleman.org. I'm Mark Keefe, and I'll see you next week right here on American Rifleman Television.